Yeah, peace everybody. Doing this video today. Originally, I wanted to do this video as a message to Kanye West, a fellow Chicagoan who allegedly, according to the media, has a temperament problem, an emotional problem. But I thought about it, like, this guy's a billionaire. Who am I to give this guy advice, Obviously, whatever this dude been doing led him to billions of dollars. He's doing something that I'm not doing, so forget giving advice to so-called Kanye West. I'm just going to give advice based on what I have learned in my life to the general, whoever's watching. And this advice is dealing with emotions, emotional intelligence, and how to control your temperament. And also, I want to actually go into depths as far as explaining exactly what emotions are. And I'm going to give my original so-called advice to whoever's listening. So, okay. And this gives me insight into how advanced the ancient Egyptians actually were. And I think the ancient Egyptians had internet. I believe they have databases. Right now they have servers still to this very day, because they are the ones who came up with the idea of emotions. And E is a verb. No. Yeah, it is a verb, but a vowel. E is a vowel. And in Latin, E means out from within. It's like bringing from within yourself out into the world. Literally going from one dimension to another dimension. The spiritual dimension, the mental dimension to the physical dimension. That's where you get the term educate, to bring out something that is dormant within. It's always a direction towards outward from within, moving forward, but not necessarily physical movement, but a movement from a perspective of an abstract movement. That's what the E is, like energy. E equals, allegedly, Einstein's theory of relativity. E equals mc squared, or E equals energy equals mass times the speed of light. E. And Euler is the first person. He's a Moorish mathematician from Switzerland. Euler, allegedly the second most important mathematician of all time, next to Euclid. And he's the first person to use variables such as E, X, N in algebra. But emotion, from what I'm saying, emotion literally means motion. Like email, electronic mail. I'm not necessarily saying electronic motion, but emotion means movement that is from within. And this movement from within actually controls the movement from without. And emotion is dealing with things such as fear, courage, love, hate, likes, dislikes. They're either going forward or to the right, to the left, up, down, left, right. You're going in that direction internally, and that internal direction actually causes you to move that way in a physical world. Similar to your plan, the emotions are literally controlling your movement. And the emotions are programs that is actually pre-programmed by yourself based on your experience, your information, your knowledge. We actually program ourselves without even realizing it. And our body is controlled by artificial intelligence, literally. And I'm gonna explain this. I thought about it thoroughly. And I'm not going to give everything I thought about, but I'm going to try to dig these thoughts out of my mind and give them to whoever's listening as best as I can, or based on the time I have, because I'm at the laundromat, so I got 20 minutes. But now, in programming, you have something called a Bullion. Now, a Bullion is a group of functions, variables, or whatever, situations, that's pre-coded. And you could say when these certain dynamics come together, when these things come together, the outcome is either true or false, right? So let me give an example of fear. Now, a person got a disposition that causes fear in different aspects. It could be a person, a city, whatever. Now, when they come in close proximity to the thing that causes fear, the fear would be triggered. Now, when the fear is triggered, it will cause you to move. Now, usually when people are scared, they flee, they run, or some people when they actually fear, they stand and try to face the fear. But it's a trigger. The fear triggers you, and the fear is based on when those dynamics that's pre-programmed in you are true. Now, when they're not true, the fear doesn't. It's not triggered. So that's the emotion. The emotion is a bullion that is caused that is triggered based on certain dynamics that is true. Like me personally, your whole life is a library of pre-programmed scripts. Pre-programmed, pre-written scripts, and you have a particular reaction to every single aspect of your entire life. The smells will bring you back. It causes nostalgia. A certain smell would trigger a thought, and when that thought is triggered, it will give you the corresponding emotion to that. If it's true, you are supposed to be scared, or you're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to do this, and when you're happy, you're scared, whatever, it's going to cause you to move in a certain direction, either right, left, up, down, to get away, to flee. Usually fear causes people to flee, to run. But how do you overcome fear? You don't overcome fear. If you're the person who has access to the source code, this is source code. If you have access to the source code, you could rewrite the script, the bullion. So you could delete it. So when these factors are actually true, even though they are true, the script doesn't actually have a trigger to it because it's not pre-programmed in your mind. The fact that it's true. Like, say for instance, Kanye West. He might have enemies in Chicago, and he avoid the city, or some people avoid the city because they don't want to be in close proximity to their enemies, or even being shamed and ridiculed by a person is devastating and can cause a reaction. People are scared of that. People are scared of being confronted, so they avoid that particular situation because it's pre-written in their mind, in their psyche, in their soul. But if they rewrite the script or delete the script totally, then the fear will not come. The fear will not come if they actually enter into that, proximity. Like I deal with game programming, now in video game programming. You could create a bullion based on something called a box collider, a collider box. Like when you collide with this particular invisible box, it'll cause you could program it to trigger whatever you want it to trigger. It could trigger music. It could cause the player to grow. It could cause the game to end. Literally, you can give whatever you want to that particular trigger if it hits that box collider. Usually people do it if they want something to happen. Like if you want to advance progression, you write that script. You pre-program all of these variables that's pre-programmed in your library. You could say if such and such come in contact with each other, the player come in contact with this particular area, such and such will happen. Now, if the player come in contact with this particular situation, it's true. But as long as the player is not in contact, it's not true. And as long as it's not true, the situation won't be triggered. And that's the same way with emotions. Now, I know this sounds crazy, and I know it's probably super complicated, and I know I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, but the way to actually rewrite the program or to delete the program is, now this is a practical exercise you could do. You could just, hold on, let me be precise. You could just ignore the script altogether. And a way to ignore the script altogether, because emotions act on the mind, because the mind is always moving. It's an internal movement that leads to the external movement. In order for you to move physically, you first have to move mentally. and have a destined destination to go to in order for you to move there. The other way, you just randomly bouncing around like particles. So we always pre-program where we're going to go before we go there. So the mind, emotions is actually necessary. The mind is the bridge that emotions use to control the body, to control it doesn't necessarily control it, but it will cause dissatisfaction and discomfort as long as you're existing in that particular area that caused the fear. So usually people react by moving, running, but you can just freeze the mind. When you freeze the mind, it doesn't move. Therefore, all emotions are neutralized or nullified. How do you freeze the mind? You got to learn how to not think any type of thought. And that recalibrates the emotions, because emotions are random, but it's not random, because emotions are pre-programmed scripts that we pre-programmed ourselves based on our experiences in order to avoid pain, and it's basically on self-preservation. The body itself is a robot. The brain is the central processing unit, and the body is controlled by artificial intelligence. Now, if you actually look at every function the body does, the blood circulation, the central nervous system, the way the brain produces electricity, because the body is controlled by electricity. Now, we consume material, liquids, we can consume plants, animals, and we obtain glucose from these materials, sugar, and we transfer that into electricity. That's what controls our body. We're electric like an electric car, and all of these functions are happening. All these organizations, or these organs, the lungs, the brain, the breathing system, the heart pumping, everything is being done without you. It's being done because it's pre-programmed to do what it's doing, and then you personally, your mind is only dealing with specific aspects. Like you're driving, I'm driving this car, but I'm not in control of the radiator. See what I'm saying? The AC, the engine, the spark plugs, I don't do none of that. I just turn the steering wheel. That's what we are. And we are etherical. Goes with the E. We are abstract. The body is physical. We communicate with the body with the same bridge that emotions contribute. The emotional aspect communicate with the body, with the mind. You see what I'm saying? But emotions are also artificial intelligence, but it's on the level of the soul, on the abstract aspect of the level, because we don't really control the emotions. We could just react to the emotions, or we can control the mind to cut off the bridge that the emotions uses to manipulate the body. And I just explained exactly how to do that. You basically have to learn how to freeze the mind of all thought, because the mind has access simultaneously to your entire life, from your first day you was born until right now, and possibly even on a more subconscious level, if you believe in so-called reincarnation, all of your lives. But this mind right now just is looking at things that it's aware of, which is your life in this body. So now anything that happened in your previous life before today, the mind access that information and compare it to what's going on now. And if you see a person from your past that you might actually like, that's going to trigger a emotion of ecstasy. If you see a person that you hate, that you want to get revenge, that might cause you to feel that way in order to give you the right motivation to do that, or whatever you want to do. It's a brief moment of time in which you still have to decide if you're going to do it or not. But fear, usually a person don't think about what they do, they just run, they just panic. But if you control, or if you just cut the bridge off, which is the mind, and when you actually freeze your mind from thinking thoughts, you cut off all previous information from all of your experience in your life. So the mind can't really draw off nothing, and to give it the proper information to feed to the body in order to react, because it's all drawn off information. The code, the script. You could do that with programming. You could just tell the system to ignore this particular script, or you could just mess the script up by not closing it properly. Go in there and sabotage the script so it won't react when you actually playing the game. You see what I'm saying? You could do that, because this is our life. If you don't really have the means or the ability to dictate when you feel emotion and when you don't feel emotion, you're basically being controlled like a chess piece. You're being manipulated by something that is allegedly there to protect you, to protect your life. Like usually, unless you have if you're in a war, you have a general or a chief telling you, forcing you, commanding you to go out there and get on the front line to risk your life. The person is not necessarily going to do that on their own, but the fear of being court-martialed, being lined up against the wall, and those things might outweigh the potentiality of dying. And then you get the glory of being, if you just somehow get shot, you get the Purple Heart, or you get the Medal of Honor. So it's more motivation to go out there if you in the battlefield than, if you were just by yourself and don't nobody know, and you got that fear and you might just panic. And some people, their emotions are so strong, they just can't even function. They will have a nervous breakdown. People be jumping off bridges. But that was when I was trying to, get that message out, giving people, allegedly, the first person I mentioned, advice on how to actually deal with emotions and situations. But I'm on a limited amount of time right now, so I can't really go deep into nothing. So, but yeah, I wrote a book about stuff like this on my website, enigma.com, if a person want to check it out. But I might get back into it if I actually go back and prepare this video. If I do a part 2, I'll be better prepared to actually go step by step to give a person a better, clearer understanding about what emotion is. Like it's etherical, internal emotion, or emotion, movement. Like all vowels represent movement. Like if you read ancient Egyptian scripts, or even Arabic, or any type of alleged Semitic script, the consonants are the most important aspects. The vowels are just things that connect the two. How do you get to this point? Like M-E-M. M represents water in the Phoenician script. M, like even like maritime or mar, it means the waters. But the E tells you how do those two concepts, or they could the constants could be either abstract or concrete, but what the vowel determines how they got together. Was it from within or from without, or was it like a physical movement, or was it back to forth, or forward to back, up to down? That's what the vowels do. It just give you an idea of how those two things connect, either spiritual, mental, physically. That's what the vowels represent. But the E represents from within, out from within. That's the direction the E represents. But yeah, that's about it though.